correctly. So please correct me if I'm wrong. So while Christine is preparing her presentation, let me just introduce you to Christine. Christine Ristino, I'm not sure, is a senior lecturer and teaches classes at the Emory University. She has co-authored an academic publication titled Lucrezia Marinella and the Querelle des Femmes in 17th century Italy through Farley Dickinson Press, as well as the first edition of a book series called The Italian Virtual Class, which teaches language through cultural acquisition. Besides her many articles and essays and non-fiction works, she presents her work in various forms throughout the US and abroad. Her main areas of expertise are Italian pedagogy, Italian language and culture, Italian memoir, food studies, and the Reggio Emilia approach to education. So, Christine, you can start your presentation. Thank you so much for being there.
Thank you so much. You did pronounce my last name correctly. I'm Christine Dino, and I'm here with my colleague Hong Li, who co-teaches the class that I'm talking about in this paper. So I'm also going to have Hong say a few words about herself.
Hi, I'm Hong Li. I teach Chinese at Emory, and I co-teach with Christine on a class on noodles.
Thank you, Hong. And we teach on a class that compares Italy and China, and basically through anthropological methods, we teach about food studies in our class. So we started an exploration of trauma-informed care during, a little before the pandemic, but mostly during. And there are 5 principles of trauma-informed care. One, and this is trauma-informed care not focused on actual teaching, but trauma-informed care in general, ensuring safety, establishing trustworthiness, maximizing choice, maximize collaboration, prioritizing empowerment. The authors who established these 5 principles are Ballot and Harris in 2009 in a book called Creating Cultures of Trauma-Informed Care, a Self-Assessment and Planning Protocol. So we went further into 8 principles of trauma-informed teaching and learning. So we combined the principles for trauma-informed care with the principles of trauma-informed teaching and learning when we were creating our class online during the pandemic. And they are physical, emotional, social, and academic safety, trustworthiness and transparency, support and connection, inclusiveness and shared purpose, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, cultural, historical, and gender issues, and growth and change. You see a lot of these principles in both sides, that we're giving our students a lot of agency in the class. And a lot of times when you're talking about trauma, the idea of giving people choices and agency is an important step in helping them to get their lives back. And so basically we got this from an article on online and social work, and it's by Corello, the rationale for trauma-informed definition, principles, and objectives. So our next slide talks about principles of resilience, the 7 principles of resilience. And we gathered, this is the last set of principles that we used when devising our class, but we wanted to talk about resilience as well as trauma-informed care, because ultimately we're trying to help our students develop resilience, both in the classroom, but beyond. And so these principles are competence, confidence, connection, character, contribution, coping, and control. They all begin with C. I'm going to hand over the next slide to my colleague Hong Li.
So when we get together to think about how to implement those principles in our language classes, we asked a key set of questions that we hope to address in our language classes. The first is about creating a structured, predictable, and flexible learning environment that foster a sense of safety, respect each other's perspectives and experiences, and empowers students to grow competence and confidence in the target language. The second question has to do with where and how do we give students the opportunity to connect and collaborate with each other and their own communities in both the target language and their own. And the third one is about the kind of traits and behavior that professors should demonstrate in their teaching in order to minimize risk, nurture self-care, and foster connections. And the very last one is how do we design trauma-informed language learning assignments also achieve learning goals.
Thank you, Hong. So, although I teach together, when it comes to language teaching, we teach culture class about teaching languages on our own, since I'm teaching Italian and Hong's teaching Chinese. So, we're going to talk a bit about my class, then we'll move into Hong's class. So, I want to talk about the syllabus, and then I will move into the details from there. When it comes to the class approach, and you can see on this slide that this is one of the first things that I talk about with my class on the syllabus and in general. I want them to understand the relationship between language and identity, not just the relationship between the Italian language and the Italian identity, or the Italian language and their identity, but their own language and second language and maybe third language identity. And so I think that is key. I want to draw upon their unique linguistic resources in order to negotiate and produce meaning. And I tell them right away, I value your linguistic diversity. It's not just about Italian here. We all bring background when it comes to languages, and I want to learn about your language as well as having you learn about Italian, but also we want to learn about everybody's cultures and languages in this class. We do a lot of translanguaging as a result in my class, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a few minutes. Regarding the attendance policy, I say, we realize, and this is the next slide actually, we realize we're in the midst of a pandemic, and so I'm not as strict with attendance as I used to be. In fact, right now I'm super flexible, and we just find a way. It's all about making it work. So if a student has COVID or the flu now, we don't want to catch anything in the class, right? If they have the flu, it doesn't matter if they're feeling the weather emotionally or physically. We want them to stay home, curl up in bed, and they can do this through Zoom, so I allow for students to be in the class and also Zoom into the class whenever they need either a mental health break or a physical break because of illness of any kind. Or if something's happening at home and they need to go home, they can Zoom into my class. All I ask is that they tell me in advance and I will Zoom them in. And so that's the flexible attendance policy. In the syllabus and also in my class, we talk about stress management. So I mentioned that they need to take care of themselves. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And as a result, I want them to know that they have my permission to do what they need to be healthy, both physically and mentally. I give them resources. Sometimes when I see that a student is depressed, I will refer them to the correct resources. I work with a lot of students who are first generation, undocumented. So sometimes they really have food insecurity, difficulty with housing, etc. And I make sure that they have the resources that they need, and also at the beginning of the class that I am a safe person if they are undocumented, if they're having struggles, that I'm a safe person and that I can help them find resources. I also have in equity, I want to make sure that I have materials that with racial and gender equity in mind. And I made sure this semester, last semester, and in fact, probably from now on, I do a course reader with parts of books, like chapters of books, rather than doing the whole book, because I want them to be able to afford the books. And I'm very, very, I guess, cautious about having them spend too much, especially now. Parents have lost their jobs because of COVID situations. A lot of families are in distress and struggling with money. And so that has been on the front. I also refer the students to a lending library that we've set up at Emory, so that they feel as though they have the space and permission to find resources that are at a low cost. And I also give them guidelines for engagement that involve respect, not being critical of individuals, but being able to discuss ideas and disagree. I want it to be a brave space, and I ask everyone to speak from the I perspective. Now, one of the other things that I want to do is create community in my class, and this is one of my main goals, is to make sure that students feel comfortable if they need to talk about difficulty. And so I have a student share, and this semester I'm doing Il mio posto preferito. That's my favorite place. And it can be anywhere in the world, and they share their favorite place, and students ask them about it. And they really have it over this assignment, this presentation. I also give flexibility with grading as far as, you know, it's done or not done, fatto non fatto. If they do it, they get it. It's just something that can draw the class together and bond the class. So I do not, you know, I don't on it. I want them to feel like they have a huge amount of space to present how and what they want to present. The next one is quizzes. As far as quizzes are concerned, quizzes once a week. It's on grammar. I've divided it into small chunks. I'm not giving them any, and I'm trying to reduce their affective filter. So trying to reduce the stress. They take the quizzes once a week and they answer 12 questions, but I only count 10. So that gives them, you know, that actually gives them the opportunity to make 2 mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes. So I am lowering the affective filter. Also, I give them a clearly defined routine and the opportunity to do translation. We do prompts every week. The prompts, and I'll show you in a moment, are on, basically the prompts are on things that allow them to talk about their own lives, but they connect to the chapters. And basically there's a very predictable routine about the prompts. We go to a beautiful space on campus that the students that the students choose. We write for 20 minutes every Thursday, and then they get together for a 3rd hour, and they meet outside of class, and they've got a form that they have to fill out. I tell them during those 20 minutes, don't look at a dictionary, don't look anything up, let the juices flow, like just write. And if you don't know the word, put in your own language, you know, whether it be English, Chinese, Korean, Spanish. And then you and students can talk about your culture and what the phrase means, and negotiate together as far as what the word could be in Italian, the best phrase. So let me just show you some of the personal prompts. Mi preoccupo del futuro. I worry about the future. And that has to do with the whole chapters on the future. Abbiamo litigato. We La mia passione, this chapter's on passions, on sports and things that people love to do. Memoria splendida, this chapter talks about memories, and they're doing the imperfect and the prossimo. Qualcuno stava male. There's a whole chapter on illness with Dr. Vocab. This is so current because we've got the coronavirus. Una memoria complicata, a very complicated memory. Spero che during the subjunctive, when we're doing the subjunctive, I hope that. Che significa la lingua italiana per te? There's a whole chapter on the Italian language and what it means for people cultures. And then come un colpo di fulmine, it was like a lightning bolt. Like, talk about something that surprised you. Now, all of these topics relate really well to their lives. What I'm discovering, I put them in groups and they meet once a week in these groups outside of class. They answer questions, they critique, but they also talk about their lives. The groups are super close. And it's a wonderful way for them to know, to talk about important things in their lives, even social justice topics, and what's going on in the world around them. So it's an outlet for them. I'm going to turn it over now to Hong so she can talk about her class.
Thank you, Christine. So from both the sets of principles and what Christine just discussed, we see that several key ideas and keywords really showed up, such as providing flexibility and choices and predictability and community, collaboration, connection, and so on. So what I'm going to do is to simply focus on those key ideas and share with you how I tried to work them into classes. I'm going to use Chinese 201 and 402 as examples. 201 is the first semester of the second year of Chinese class, and 402 would be the second course in the fourth year of Chinese class. So to provide structure and predictability in my classes, I tried to have my Canvas course designed in exactly the same manner. So you can see that the Chinese 201 and 402 share exactly the same kind of homepage with key information available to them right away. And the modules are also structured in the same way. So the whole idea behind this simple practice is to reduce this sense of anxiety when students sign up for a new class, and to gradually discover the routine actually rather quickly by themselves, so they feel less stressed and less anxious about taking a new class. Follow along the same idea, I also tried to structure the class based on units. So each course has 4 units in it. And units are organized in very similar way and consistently the whole semester. So what you can see from the left is the schedule for the first unit, and then you can see each unit we begin with the learning objectives with the structures, and then to the photo on the right, which is the structure of each lesson in Chinese 402. So exactly the same kind of materials are provided for each lesson, so that students can quickly discover the routine and the expectations. Similar to 16, I also use low stakes and high stakes assignments. So they serve very different purposes. Low stakes assignments are mainly for the purpose of encouraging students to use the language freely, creatively, expressing their own lives through the target language, and also get prepared for the class and for high stakes assignments. On the other hand, the high the high-stakes assignments are for the purpose of truly master the language from its vocabulary to its syntax and develop the ability to use it in an accurate way. The info shows a breakdown of their grades. As you can see, the low-stakes assignments are 25% of the grade, with 75% coming from the high-stakes assignments. I think having a mixture of low stakes and high stakes helps students to gradually build confidence in using the target language and then develop their competence. I normally assign low stakes assignments first, so students get a chance to use the language without worrying about their grade too much, and then they are ready to take on the high stakes assignments. Another practice I try to incorporate is to provide the flexibility and choice, as Christine does in her classes. The goal is to be inclusive, to recognize that the students have different strengths and have different learning styles, so that they feel that they are empowered to work in a way that is best for them, so that they can develop their own language competency in the way that works for them. So here you see the on the left is a video assignment on Flipgrid, which is about their own lives, and they have the choice of talking about their favorite book or favorite movie. On the right is the assignment for their final project. Again, it is an inquiry-based project, so that students can choose a topic that truly interests them and then go deep into research and share work with the clients. Yes?
You have to, I'm sorry.
Hello? Okay. Should I go on?
Sure.
So class 1 approach is a good way of providing flexibility and also choice to students. As you can see in here, I have the compositions for Chinese 402. Again, students have the choices of writing on a topic that is interesting and relevant to themselves. Here you can see the examples of getting extra credits. We have launched in the syllabus. The idea is that students are aware of extra credit opportunities from the first day of class, so that they wouldn't be coming to us at the end of the semester and telling us, oh, I need to pull my grades up. So this is, again, giving students some flexibility and choice to really take advantage of the opportunities that we provide in the structure of the course. The next idea is having to do with making connections and providing collaboration opportunities for the students.
20 minutes are over.
Oh, our time is over, so I am going to just quickly skip it. What I only want to mention that in the synchronous classes, I try to get students to do group work on Google Slides using thought, questions, and epiphanies method. So you can easily Google this and find how that works. Okay. This is an example to show that how what you can do with that. So for trauma-informed activities, I've found that video discussion board on Flipgrid is a very effective way to connect students, and they can easily share information about their life with each other. I'm going to skip this. So there are a couple of other assignments, such as the media reports and one-on-one speaking assignments. That's an opportunity for me to have a Zoom meeting with students individually, and we only speak Chinese. It's low stakes, so they feel free to speak with me in Chinese. Yeah. So that's my part.
Yeah, and the last thing we wanted to say is, even when we're not in a pandemic, we always, you know, there are always students who are going through something, and we all, as part of our human nature, we all go through difficult times, and so we're going to continue using trauma-informed teaching even after the pandemic. We feel as though it's a very humane way to teach. And we've really enjoyed it and enjoyed getting, you know, going deeper with our students as a result. So thank you so much. This was such an honor, and it's great to be here.
Thank you very much, Christine and Hong. And first of all, my apologies for not having